Hey everybody, John Granato and Lance Zierlein from the bench. Mornings on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Let's talk about the Texans. Last week, Tony Dungy downplayed his involvement in the Texans GM search. Here he is on the Dan Patrick Show.
Now, you're working with the Texans on trying to help them find a general manager. Is that right?
No, don't start that rumor, Dan.
Okay.
Here's what happened.
Okay.
Cal McNair called several people and said, would you talk to me about how to select a general manager and a head coach?
Okay.
And I said, sure, I would love to. Well, all of a sudden that becomes you're on a committee. I am not picking the person. All I'm doing is giving Mr. McNair a formula.
Lance, that combined with the timing of the Easterby article, it really raised some questions about the true purpose of the group of advisors. Considering the black cloud over Easterby, is it fair to say that the Texans' willingness to get the GM hire right is tied to their willingness to part ways with Easterby? Let's say the GM, you can't get the best GM unless you fire Easterby. Would they fire Easterby?
Well, I mean, you got to tack that money on top of what you're going to pay the GM, obviously, and then you also tack that on top of what you're going to be paying Bill O'Brien now that you fired him. And I don't know, does Brian Gaines still have some money coming to him? Does Rick Smith? I don't know. This, none of this has been done well. But I think the best chance, you don't have a strong owner, so the best chance you have at being a successful franchise is hiring the right general manager. Whether it's the first choice, second choice, third choice, it doesn't matter. There's plenty of players who aren't the first pick in a draft who end up being the best players in a particular year that they come out. So I think getting the right guy in place gives you the best chance of having a good football team in the future. You can have that guy handle the hiring or whatever the case needs to be. But if I think the question becomes, can you get that guy if Jack Easterby's still in the building? And if he's still in the building, then basically you're lowering your chances for success to me.
And Cal has said, too, which is this is so bass-ackwards, this whole thing.
Right.
He has said that he's going to tie Easterby's fate to the incoming GM. So one of the first things that I do as the GM is going to have to fire Jack Easterby? That you're leaving this on me? The guy that you hired, the guy that's been in your ear, turning you to stone like worm tongue. This is what I have to do. That's not a great way to start as the GM.
No, it's not. And the other thing is, I think now that the article has come out and all these things have come out, unless they're somehow refuted, I don't know how much input you want to let a guy like Jack Easterby have, either pre-hire or post-hire. So what are you paying him? $1 million to $3 million a year to do what? To be a glorified ticket rep? To be a guy who just sends inspirational messages on laminated cards that he sits on chairs? Like, I don't know what he does to make you a better team. Now, if you just want to write it off as a bad hire, then you're going to pay him the money anyway. Why keep him in the building if this is going to be the case? So I don't think you want him having input on the hire personally. He might be good for the input of the hire. I don't know. Who knows? But up to this point, we just don't have a good enough track record to trust that. And if he's not going to be here long term, then why in the world would you want him having input either pre-hire or maybe even more importantly, post-hire?
Yeah, and listen, I'm just shocked. There's not enough smoke anymore after that SI article. It came and went. It blew away. And it just seems like now I didn't see him sleeping in between Cal and Hannah at the game on Sunday. So that was nice. Maybe he is persona non grata, or he is losing a little bit of his grip on Cal because he wasn't along for the ride.
But he's usually on the sideline anyway.
Yeah, well, where he should be. That's exactly where
Right.
Jack Easterby should be, right in the middle of things, because he's so important to the organization. But we can't let this slow down, because if you can't hire a GM because Jack Easterby is in the building, then we've got a real problem. That's a real problem for the organization going forward. Here's the thing, though: if Jack Easterby is part of the process at all, he's not gonna suggest a guy that is actually going to turn around and fire him right away. He's going to want a guy that he's got as an ally with, a guy that's tied to his agent, that guy that, his guy, one of his guys, so Jack Easterby's going to be able to stay in the house. So that I think maybe that question about whether or not the GM is going to fire him, it might be moot.
Yeah, that's why you can't. That's why you can't have him have that input, because if he's doing stuff to take care of himself, I mean, that's the very definition of potentially why we're in the place that we're in as Texans fans.
Absolutely. And then finally, we're seeing so many coaches' names popping up. Is this backwards as well? I mean, let the GM is going to hire the coach. Why are we even talking about who is Cal talking to this group about who the coach might be?
I think so. But that doesn't make sense. You got to hire the GM first. Let the GM handle the coaching stuff. This is the very reason you're here. You haven't had a strong GM who's running the show. Now I get coaching hires are sexier than general manager hires, so maybe that's why the conversation's really, running towards who the next coaching hires are going to be. But the reality is, and Jed Hughes put the name out. Jed Hughes, their consultant, put the name out. Brian Schottenheimer, who's the OC for the Seattle Seahawks right now. But obviously, to me, the first thing you have to do is set a course for success, and that starts with a general manager, and then you work your way down. That's how I would do it. With that said, I would have done things a lot different than what the Texans have done it for years and years. So, it's hard to feel like they're on the right path with this.
No, really, it's hard to feel like the Texans are on the right path. Okay,
really.